There is a future version of you waiting for you to catch up. But if you're not willing to become that person in the present moment, how are you ever going to get there? There's no reason in sitting and always being sad about feeling like you're too old for this, or you're too big for this, or your past means X, Y, and Z. Like, there is no point of it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the This Is Called Healing podcast. Today's video is going to be a little bit shorter, and I think because I'm doing several new things in my life currently, I'm in a space where I'm kind of forced to face a lot of insecurities and a lot of limiting beliefs in myself. And of course, that is what I talk a lot about on my podcast and on my channel. And I've mentioned before that the reason why I call it This Is Called Healing is for us to recognize that life is essentially a bunch of just different phases of healing, but that you need to remember, especially when you're into self-development and spirituality, you're not living to heal, but you're healing to live. Right before 2020, I had already been on a weight loss and a spiritual journey, if you will, but it wasn't until November 2019, right around when the pandemic happened, but it had nothing to do with the pandemic. It had everything to do with myself, because I was really in this transformational period where I could just feel that things needed to change. And not only that, I had, for the first time on my weight loss journey, after getting down to my lowest weight, I was starting to notice that I felt a little more uncomfortable in my body. And when I got on the scale again, I noticed that I'd probably gained about 10-ish pounds from my lowest weight. And so I went on this like 1 week shred, so to speak, where you work out twice a day, lost probably 5 pounds. Then come December, I notice I gain a little more weight again. And it's just frustrating to go between these like 5 to 15 pounds, especially when I wasn't even fully at the goal that I wanted to be at. And it's scary to go through these cycles when you've done well for a while and when you know the version of yourself that you used to be. Because if you don't pay attention and if you don't do daily work on yourself, you're not going to be able to keep it up. And so I decided for the rest of December, I am just going to live the way I want to live, eat the way I want to eat. And I definitely did. And I think at that point, I had then probably gained the 10 pounds back. And I just knew with a very like resolute attitude that 2020 was going to be the year of health for me. And I decided to cut out all added sugar, all alcohol, all things bad. And believe it or not, this was not another just like wishy-washy New Year's. I decided and I freaking committed to it. So on January 1st, I got up and I was home visiting family. I remember actually enjoying watching a movie with my sister and just having healthy snacks. And I worked out twice that day. I did yoga, I did a normal workout, and I went for a nightly run. I started running in January every single night, no matter the weather and cold. I was kind of like a little bit of a David Goggins before I maybe even knew who he was. I also, in like a jokingly way, usually say that I came up with 75 hard because I actually did everything that program wants you to do for a while. So of course, within a couple of weeks, I felt like I was in this groove. I felt great. I felt so motivated. Before January was over, I couldn't even go for a walk outside because it was too painful for my body. I had overworked my body so hard that I gave myself an injury. This is an injury that still pops up once in a while, and then sometimes I'll feel it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Other times I will spend months trying to get back to feeling good in my body again. So I can promise you I learned a pretty tough lesson with that one. And we're talking the kind of pain where everything was just about not being in pain. I got on some kind of morphine, which did not help. And suddenly, of course, all my motivation went away. And all you want to do when you're in pain is to just not be in pain. You don't even care about losing weight. You just don't want to be in pain. And it's so funny and ironic that all you cared about just one day before was losing weight. So my point of this video is to talk about stages of healing and phases of healing where it's so important to recognize that as time is passing by, that is your life. Whether you feel like you're in a prepping phase or you're getting ready to be someone or do something or this goal that you're achieving, especially as a woman, are you listening to your body? Are you in your body? Because I've noticed that's been one of my biggest struggles, is not feeling embodied. I don't feel like I'm in my body most of the time, and not in some weird dysmorphia way, but as if I feel kind of cold and rigid, and as if I'm not able to move and be and express myself the way that I want to. And then that can lead you to going into forms of escapism. And that could be drinking, eating, and just numbing yourself out, right? And you can do it in various ways. And that's what I've done since I was a little girl. And then I went the other route where I was like, I've noticed that I can beat my body down to the point where it's going to transform and it gets stronger. And again, I'm really targeting women mostly because I think it's so important to recognize that we all have a feminine energy and a masculine energy within us, but many things are still tested on men. It's still targeted for men. I used to fast for so long, and it was so important for me to keep those hours, especially as a mental thing. I even tried doing one meal a day for a while. I felt so drained in the same way that you do when you have a really big adrenaline spike. Let's say you have a really stressful situation at work or wherever you are, and that come down after where you just feel really confused and discombobulated. That's how that felt for me. And all that to say, instead of noticing my progress and catching up with who I was becoming, I would take steps backward and then I would punish myself for those steps backwards. And that's very much against those things I'd been learning on my more spiritual and intuitive path, where I loved the idea of those things, but then I went for a very external, very harsh way of fixing myself. And I still love challenges. I will do 75 hard again for sure. But if you can't connect to why you're doing certain things, you're never going to create an identity shift. And it wasn't until yesterday where I really started reflecting on my own journey and that sense of, and the healing that I have done, but also the imposter syndrome that I still feel despite all my progress and despite for how long I've kept up the work every single day. There are two other aspects of this that I really want to talk about. And one is I want to continue doing my best self challenge, and I want you guys to do it as well. And I think it's really important that we find out who we can become, because the whole thing of just accepting yourself to me sounds like self-sabotage. It sounds like staying in your patterns, staying in your past, staying in your trauma, staying in your story. I don't want to do that. But I think there's this missing link of fantasy and reality where your ideal and best self, your future you, starts right now. It starts in the present. It starts within this healing. And that's not a pretty thing for quite a long time. And in moments, it will be rock bottoms and tests and all these more down periods. But you have to take that as part of life. It can't always be this thing of only when I'm doing well or when I accomplish certain goals am I on the right path? Am I on the healing path? Am I ready to be seen, ready to live life, ready for a relationship, ready for new friends, ready to go try out this thing, ready to wear the outfit? My God, I am so guilty of buying an outfit that is maybe too expensive. And I think the physical item will represent the person that I need to become, which can be a great thing. It can and has worked for me in the past. But if I don't have super clear intentions and goals surrounding that, it will just become another physical item that blends in with wherever I live in the background. And it just kind of goes blah. Ever since I started posting regularly on my channel, I've wanted to have a new photo, a new profile picture, because the other one is just so, it doesn't resonate with me anymore. That was like the photo booth channel challenge that was popular for a little while, maybe 3 years ago at this point. And I bought this expensive top that I got all the way from Australia just because I thought it was so great and it was kind of out of my comfort zone. And I still haven't worn it to this day because I don't feel comfortable in it and because I would like to be in a little bit of a better shape but I wanted to take a new profile picture in it. I wanted it to be something that I kind of made a big deal out of. So I felt like I had a professional picture for my podcast, which is a great thing and a great idea. But when did I buy it? Probably 7 or 8 months ago. Been in various shapes since. And I don't like how in my mind there is this sense of one day, but every single day could be that day. And it just keeps getting pushed and pushed further out because I'm not in it in the moment. Does that make sense? So, in no way do I think that you should not try to become your best self. I am going to, for sure. I want to find my best self, my best way of expressing myself, my most authentic self. I want to find my purpose. I want to find that feeling of belonging, but in who I am, so that it doesn't matter if I'm an extra 5 pounds this month, or what I wear, or who I'm with where I go, if I have makeup on when I go to this place, or if I wear this outfit at the gym, or where I live, or who I'm dating, whatever it is. I'm really tired of so much self-awareness on this journey without feeling like the progress is also felt, that the progress is seen in the way that I live. And with that, the second thing that is going to be really important to talk about is something that I think you should go watch the original video. I think she's a psychologist. Her name is Heidi Prieb on YouTube. She's amazing. I will link it either right here in the video or in the description, in the comments, maybe all of the above. But please go watch it because I've watched it twice now and I have such epiphany moments every single time. But I will just run through sort of what this means right now because I think it's really pivotal for the intention of this video. And it was something that just popped into my head as I was doing the reflections and started writing down what I wanted to talk about today. There is this thing called fantasy self-regulating. And that is a term that, yes, I just coined because I don't think that's what she calls it. But it's different from limerence and maladaptive daydreaming, which you can definitely look into because I think I have a little itty bits of that as well. But in the video, she talks about how you don't actually lack follow through. You don't lack all of these things and all of these words that we like to put on it. Just like I like to think because I'm an INFP, I am lazy but motivated, or I lack discipline, motivation, whatever it is. But then I'm like, but then how did I do all of the things that I did? How do I keep going to the gym every single day when I'm really freaking tired and it's 5 a.m. in the cold of Denmark? So maybe that's not what it is. So what she talks about is you are regulating through putting all your focus on the future you, but the fantasy you. And the reason why this was both an epiphany, but also something very hopeful for me, was because it made me realize that I get to decide what future I create. And at the end of the day, there's nothing sad about saying this is fantasy and this cannot be real, because until you decide what cannot be real and what you use as a form of regulation, you cannot choose the new things that you want to create. You cannot create the real best self you, but because it has to be real, it has to be the best you. There's no reason in sitting and always being sad about feeling like you're too old for this, or you're too big for this, or your past means X, Y, and Z. Like, there is no point of it. So the signs that you might be doing this as well are: you always dream and you write out lists and you do all the planning, but you do not execute. That's number one. And that is what I just talked about. The waiting phase, feeling like you're waiting for something. There is something more. There is something still yet to come. And number two is your idea of success is a highlight reel, not a day-to-day. And that was really essential for me as well, because I noticed that so many times I think of myself doing certain things or accomplishing certain things as I'm going through my real day-to-day. But what I'm seeing are the prize-winning moments and the great loves, the great love moments, it's that moment on stage with the big applause, the big song. It's the highlight reel of life. It's not what I love day to day doing this kind of life. which is why number 3 might be that you get defensive. I thought I wasn't talking about my dreams because I don't want people to talk down about it or make me feel bad about it. And I don't want people to ruin it. And I guess in a way, that is part of what it is. But more than that, I get defensive because I'm not fully believing in my own dreams. You're getting defensive because essentially what they're doing is making you face reality of where you are, and they can't see your fantasy. So you get defensive because now you're forced to look at this, but really what you see in your head is this. And it's a great thing if you channel and transmute. So if you channel your pain and your anger and your dreams and desires into a goal and execute on it daily. Like I mentioned, I used to be overweight. Now I put in time at the gym every single day so that I can stay in the shape that I am now. That's daily work. Was that what I was dreaming about when I was overweight? No, I was dreaming about the day when people went, "Oh my God, literally, who are you? I can't recognize you." And I've had so many of those moments with people, and it feels incredible. It really does. But that was a goal, that was something driving me. And then I went through such a long time of getting up and doing these grueling workouts and eating healthy every single day and learning about myself and my body. Of course, also going through pain and all of that. So I learned on both extreme levels there. But I wasn't getting defensive because what is there to get defensive about? Because it's quite literally a reality that I'm working for. I had decided there's no plan B. There are no what, buts, or ifs. This is my new life. And so, in that sense, I was living in the future, but in the present. I wasn't escaping to the future in the present. I hope that makes sense. And then the fourth sign is the older you get, the more you regret. I actually didn't know that. I didn't even think about that rhyming. And of course, we all heard about the regrets of the dying. And when you get older, you start to get bitter. You start to regret things in your life that you most likely did not do over what you did do. And number 5 is you identify more as your future self than your current self. Self-explanatory. Like I said, you're starting, which is a good thing if you are living in the end, as it's called in the manifestation world. If you are living as if your best self and your future self, spoiler alert, we're going to do a more intense, I don't want to call it challenge, but let's call it our own arc here on this channel, where we're going to really go into depth on living in your best self and living in your future self, because it's important if you want to achieve the life that you want to achieve and if you're sick and tired of being where you're at. And another thing is, I wish for you and for me to be able to reflect, honor, and admit our progress and all the great things within ourselves. Because if you want to become your best self, there's no way that you're on that journey if you're just a piece of shit. There's no way. You're not on my channel if you're that type of a person. You probably are a good, maybe introverted, empathic, great person, but you're not expressing yourself. And there's probably something that's very, maybe more wild and beautiful and deep within you that isn't being lived. But I don't want all of these goals to merely be a stepping stone towards my greatest self. I want to be able to love and be in the process as I'm becoming her. I want the becoming of her to be synonymous with being her. So I can definitely acknowledge that it's a feeling more than anything that I'm looking for. It's not a prize. It's not this one thing. It's a feeling. Is it a one-time feeling of, yes, this is her. This is who I need to be? Or is it in the daily life of me appreciating my daily efforts, the time I have with friends and family, a great workout, meeting new people, hell, maybe even a good date once in a while? Because if I'm being honest, it feels like to me that in a lot of those moments, I'm not fully present. And in a way, I genuinely feel like there is an alternate version of me living while I'm sitting here in the reality. And I would love to trade. I would love to switch places with her. The version of me that's figured everything out, that's so good already. But most likely, the way you're living in the present, if you're not living to your fullest and your best self, you're probably living in some kind of trauma response from when you were little. And I can recognize from myself, and you probably can too, if you resonate with this, that little bit of a middle child syndrome where you were just going to be quiet. You were just trying to be easy. My mom even said that to me not too long ago, which I've never heard before. She said, "You were always so easy as a child. I never had to worry about you." Which sounds like a compliment, but you can also see how that can lead to some negative things and why I might have a hard time being seen and being expressive and taking up space and making demands out in life. And I remember as a kid, I always thought if I can get peace and quiet, then that's enough of a win for me. So I'll be a people pleaser. I won't ask for too much. And I'm sure you can guess what kind of relationships that's gotten me into in general. So to round this out, I just want to say that my point of this video is for you to create a true sense of self-awareness within yourself, in your body, and within your life, especially if you're a woman. Admit your faults, admit the greatness within you, admit your kind and amazing qualities, admit the way you're feeling so that we can do something about it. Because if you're anything like me, I don't want you to get to the end of your life with a full Pinterest board and an empty heart. And what I know for me is I see my past, I see my choices, I see the different stages of healing that I've done, I see my progress. And as hard as it is to face my current reality and as like how far I have to go towards the woman I want to be, that my life can become the one of my dreams. And I can become the woman of my dreams. I can find the love of my life. And when you cope and when you escape your reality and escape your entire life, essentially, while you're existing in this current present, you're living in a certain special kind of hell where you're probably doing okay, especially outwardly. And it's almost harder than if you were at a complete rock bottom because it's harder to force yourself out of it. Because it probably isn't obvious that you might be silently screaming every day that you're craving something else in life, that you're not really living as who you want to be. So let's remember the tagline from the podcast: we're not living to heal, but healing to live. And it is in this space you are right now that you step in to the person that you want to be. You don't become that person without being that person. So on that note, we are going to dive a lot deeper on that because I'm going deep in my own life in that space as well. And maybe it's also because in about an hour, I need to go onto a stage and do like this pitch competition. And there's a huge part of me clearly that loves to talk. And I've always loved to sing. I love to express myself. But that then faces the current reality me that is so terrified whenever the spotlight is on me and just want to get it over with as quickly as possible and just run. So here's to me being that person in about an hour and doing my very best and learning from it. Hopefully looking back on this in a year and being like, or screw that, in 6 months when I'm turning 30, I want to look back on this being like, 6 months can really change a lot. And I really am so much closer to the woman of my dreams now because I stepped into that authenticity. So if you're still with me, I thank you and I love you. And I hope that you took something away from that. And please go watch the video if you resonated with any of that. And yes, I will see you in about a week. And if you most likely are here on YouTube, please go to my Spotify and follow me on there as well, because sometimes I do audio exclusives instead of these videos, and it would just mean a lot to me if you went on there as well. So yes, I will see you guys very soon. Bye.